Welcome back everybody to BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to be looking at the Gavril Grand Marshal V8 Luxe. Now this was produced between 1990 and 1995, has 220 horsepower, 302 pounds-feet of torque and weighs 4,001 pounds, and is typical of the 90s American domestic vehicle. Very large, quite powerful, rear-wheel drive, automatic gearbox, and hopefully quite tough. So as per usual with these reviews, we're going to go around the grid map and just slam it into things, make it go over jumps, roll it over, whatever, see how much it can take, and then we'll give it a test of 3 tests on the other side of the map: rollover, explosive barrels, and a cinder block wall. Then we'll move on to the crash hall to go a small overlap test at 3 separate speeds: 30, 40 and 60 mile an hour, and then finally we'll go on the highway and see what it does against other vehicles. So let's just take it around here and see what it can do. One tyre firing it, because it's got, live rear axle and nothing really all that sophisticated underneath. Yes, it has independent front suspension, but that's it really. That's the only really advanced kind of thing it's got going for it. But then I say advanced as in American kind of stuff, but anything else European wise was far more advanced, and we've already lost the front wheel. As you can see, it is not turning and it is wobbling quite heavily, which isn't giving me the best of hopes in terms of durability. Frankly, I'd rather that wheel fell off because it's not doing anything for us. Oh, it's starting to turn a little bit maybe there. But yeah, we've only got one wheel that's properly useful at the moment, which is not helpful. So yeah, front wheels not the strongest, which is a bit surprising really. I would have thought they would have been a bit stronger maybe. And the suspension has clearly gone at the front as well, because we're nose diving down and we are struggling to turn right. We can turn left fine, but turning right is a big issue. Yeah, it's not being able to deal with all that much in terms of damage right at the moment. It's like the bumper up at the front is under the car as well, which probably isn't helping things. We're having to slow right down just to get turned. Still got speed though. I don't think the radiator's punctured, which is good. We're going to roll this thing, see if it can take it. Obviously we're going to be doing this with the rollover sled, but see if we can take something a bit more high speed. Turn the engine off so it doesn't starve itself of oil. I think, yeah, that right wheel is still causing us issues. But the car overall did sustain very little damage from that. Which is surprising. Oh dear. Have we killed ourselves? Yes, we have. Well, that was primarily my fault over anything else, but you have to say the passenger cell survived that very nicely. But obviously everything underneath did not. So, yeah, right, let's get to the rollover sled and see what it can do there. Then we'll move on to explosive barrels, and then finally we will deal with the cinder block wall. So yeah, 0 to 60 is dealt with in 7.8 seconds, which is fairly rapid for a £4,000 car. 0 to 100 in 19.9 seconds, and then it will go to a top speed of 133 miles an hour, which is actually, I think, the fastest car we've had on this review series that we've been doing lately in terms of top speed. Can't remember if we've had a faster vehicle than that, but yeah, still fairly decent for a car of this size, weight, and age. So yeah, let's see what it can do. Speed it up a little bit, slow it down. Oh, the main suspect area is obviously again those front wheels. I've crushed the roof fairly substantially already. Hit on that corner again on the roof. But we have at least landed on our wheels. The boot has opened up and the roof has caved in quite a fair bit on the driver's side. But I think we still have steering. Yes, we do, which is better than what we dealt with before. Although it is pulling right, really rather heavily to the right. Which is obviously again not useful. Not really trying to be accurate with going on here, that's for sure. We managed it eventually. Right. Flick through, slow down, speed up, la la la. Right, so we're coming at it from the other side this time. And I think because the roof isn't quite as cylindrical as it was before, that has actually helped us not take all that much damage this time round. Yeah, the rear bumper is coming away, but it's only kind of significant damage. So let's see if it can handle it a third and final time. Oh, damn it. Oh. Well, that screwed that up. I keep forgetting that 0 on the keyboard resets a vehicle. So yeah, we'll just say that it passed that, quite frankly. So yeah, right, let's get onto the explosive barrels. To be honest, I don't think it would have rolled over much more with the way the roof was going. It was a bit too on its, a bit too flat, and obviously the centre of gravity isn't all that high on this because it is only a saloon car. So I doubt it would have taken much more damage. Unlike now, where we've pretty much eviscerated the entire front of the car. The engine's gone, the rear, the drive shaft's gone, one of the wheels is flapping about, the bonnet completely shot into the stratosphere. I don't know where it's gone. It might be in the middle of nowhere, I think. Oh, it's there. There's the bonnet. So yeah, we've pretty much shattered the entire front of this vehicle. It's probably one of the most significant amount of damaging explosions that we've had on this series, and for some reason the car is struggling to slow down as well. Probably because we've lost at least one of those front wheels. So yeah, that car has not really come out of that nicely. Yes, the passenger cell is pretty much fairly intact, but it isn't a good sign that the front has pretty much disintegrated there. So let's finally get onto the cinder block wall, see how it deals with that. I imagine it'll be pretty fine, since the roof seemed to be reasonably strong and the passenger cell did not cave in with the explosion. Well, the windscreen held up, it didn't cave in too much. Yeah, the bodywork has taken the most of the brunt of that force. And at least, unlike the Cherrier from the previous episode, we have no sunroof for the breeze blocks to, or cinder blocks to come smashing through. So yeah, that dealt with that fairly well. I say it was really rather weak at the start with going around the grid map because we lost that front wheel fairly early on. But rollover wise, yeah, fairly solid in that. Explosive test, outside of obviously a lot of the engineering or the mechanical stuff, braking, dealt with it fairly well. And here, yeah, flying colours here with the cinder blocks. So yeah, let's get onto the crash hall and see how it does with some more real life crash tests. Right, so here we are at the crash hall, and as per usual we'll be doing a small overlap crash test at 30, 40 and then 60 miles an hour. Now the Cherrier was awesome in these tests, which I guess is no surprise given how modern it is, so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what a far older car can do in comparison to that, because the vehicles prior to the Cherrier were really rather woeful at the more higher speeds, which I guess is no real surprise given how old they were in comparison to the Cherrier. So let's see how it does at 30. It should be fine here. The rest of the other vehicles we've tried out have been fine here. Yeah, that's perfect. No deformation on the crash of the passenger cell at all. Yes, the front has taken a fair bit of amount of damage, but that's to be expected, as long as that is taking the damage and not the people inside. Is the all-important part there. So yeah, that is perfect. But then again, like I said, all of the other vehicles have been perfect pretty much at that as well. So yeah, let's see how it can deal with a 40 mile an hour impact. This is where the forces get substantially bigger and more tough to deal with. Again, perfect. Again, no deformation whatsoever on the passenger cell. And to be honest, the damage doesn't even look all that much more severe. So yeah, again, that's done it perfectly. I'm really surprised by how similar the 30 to 40 mile an hour impacts are, because obviously we are going faster, so there are more crash forces involved. And yeah, we're all told that the slower you go, the better you're going to be in a crash. But here, it seems that 30 or 40 miles an hour would not make a blind bit of difference really. So yeah, let's see what happens at 60 miles an hour. Now most of the vehicles that we've tried at this speed have failed, with the roof crumpling upwards and the door caving in. So let's see how this £4,000 saloon car from the mid-90s can do. That is really verging on the on practical to be on perfect, to be honest. Yes, the roof has gone up a little bit. Yes, the door has come outwards as well, which might well make it impossible or extremely difficult to open for emergency services. But yeah, that's dealt with it remarkably well given the age of the vehicle, and yeah, it's easily the second best vehicle we've had on these reviews in terms of 60 mile an hour. In terms of safety, to be honest, yeah, really surprised. Yeah, the steering wheel hasn't really moved all that much. The seat is practically in the same place, and yeah, the car has taken the most of that brunt force of that. In fact, if you looked at it from this side, you'd think there would be barely damage at all. So yeah, really surprised by how well that's dealt with it, considering, you know, the age difference between this and the Cherrier, where the Cherrier was about 99% perfect on everything, whereas this is about 90%. So yeah, massively surprised by how similar this and the Cherrier are, to be honest. So yeah, let's finally get out onto the highway and see what this car can deal with in terms of similar vehicles, and then something that really isn't a similar vehicle. So yeah, see you when we get there. Right, here we are at the highway, and I've chosen our first vehicle. It's part of the 800 series by ETK, and yeah, it's a couple £100, well, nearly a couple £100 less than what the Grand Marshal is. But it's also a substantially larger car, so it might have a bit more in the way of forces going through it. So yeah, going to be going about 60 mile an hour into each other, which is a reasonable amount of top speed to assume a car can, you know, deal with. So as well as obviously real life kind of speeds as well. Just going to try and keep them in line with one another. How are we going to do? Perfect. Pretty much, yeah. The roof's gone up slightly, but only because this right hand side was a bit more, you know, impacted than the other side, so that's only why. Obviously the ETK has got away with flying colours, it's a more modern car, but yeah, the Grand Marshal there has done really rather nicely, you know, considering is up against a far more modern car. So yeah, really impressed by that. So let's see what it can do against another similarly sized and weighty vehicle. Now this is a bit tricky because there are a lot to choose from, to be honest. And if there aren't a lot to choose from, then it's probably because they're not quite as heavy. Then we'll go against an old Chevrolet Caprice. I'm not sure how much these weigh, but I imagine they're going to be in the range of £4,000 because they're hardly lightweight vehicles. And yeah, we'll go against a station wagon, not an estate, obviously. Estate would be a European car. These are obviously American. So yeah, let's set this off at 60 miles an hour if it lets us. There we go. Don't crash on me for changing vehicles. It's crashed on me. Come on, you can do it. Breathe for me. So yeah, big old American station wagon. Despite, you know, carrying children and families around for decades, we're not the safest of vehicles. Oh dear, I missed that. I do apologise. Well, actually, the Caprice got away with that fairly well, in all honesty. I was expecting a lot worse from it. Although, obviously, this car would not have airbags or pre-tensioners or anything like that, whereas the Grand Marshal most likely would. And yeah, the Grand Marshal has got away with that better. Not all of the roof has gone upwards, whereas it has on the Caprice. And yeah. Yeah, I'd definitely rather be in the Grand Marshal, quite frankly. Right, now let's go up against something that really is far heavier than what we're dealing with. Find a massively meaty car, but obviously something that's stupidly heavy. What's a suitable D series? Just trying to find something that's weighty, but not overly weighty. Now that would be spectacular to go up against one with the logs in the back, because as you can see it weighs nearly £10,000. You know, alright, I will, just for the laughs, because yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what this can... Obviously this D-Series is going to be killed in rather spectacular style. It's going to be interesting to see what the Grand Marshal can do as well. Hopefully we can even get up to 60 miles an hour, given how much it weighs. Not 100% dead on, but close enough. Oh, well, I'm surprised those logs didn't have more of an impact, really. But considering we've just gone up against a car that's more than twice as heavy as we are, I'm surprised we haven't failed more spectacularly, quite frankly. Yes, the roof has gone up significantly more than we have seen in other crash tests that we've done so far, but it's still within limits, to be honest. So yeah, massively surprised that the Grand Marshal has done as well as it has throughout this. To be honest, I'm surprised the logs didn't go for the back of the D-Series even more, but yeah. The Grand Marshal has gotten away with that, all of those tests pretty much with flying colours. It's just a shame that the front wheels are really rather quite fragile, which obviously hindered us having more fun with it on the grid map. But it dealt with the rollover tests fine. I know we only got 2 of them done because I accidentally reset the vehicle, but I doubt it would have taken much more damage on the third roll, because as we saw in the second roll, because of the roof being slightly flatter after the first rollover to crash test, it didn't roll anywhere near as much, so I doubt it would have rolled any more than it did on the second time. The explosive barrels did, you know, show off how poorly made the front end is, but the passenger cell didn't compromise whatsoever, and neither did it in the cinder block test. 5 stars, well, 4 and a bit, pretty much in terms of the overlap crash test, and in these real life, you know, vehicle on vehicle crash tests, it was pretty good as well. So, yeah, really surprised how much this older vehicle has been able to not only sustain damage but also protect whoever would be inside. So yeah, just because a vehicle is older does not necessarily mean it's going to be drastically less safe than a more modern vehicle. But obviously, this is an exception to the rule, not the general rule, because as we have seen with plenty of other older vehicles that we've tried out on this series so far, they are a lot less safe than more modern vehicles. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.